They filmed themselves revving stolen cars, flashing jewelry, and mocking police patrols. They called themselves the A-Team, a Snapchat-fueled crew of young burglars who treated their crime spree like a social media series. But their arrogance became evidence, and their phones, once filled with gloating messages, became the very tools that sealed their fate. Between February and March 2024, a group of 4 men tore through Yorkshire's towns, Doncaster, Wakefield, Barnsley, Huddersfield, committing over 20 coordinated burglaries. Homes were ransacked, safes cracked, and vehicles driven off in the night. They stole over £150,000 in luxury cars, jewelry, and tech. But they weren't careful. They filmed it, they shared it, and they joked about it online. From changing plates to spotting police units in group chats, the men believed they were untouchable. But behind the scenes, the Wakefield District Crime Team was quietly connecting the dots. By the time the stolen Kia Sportage was boxed in by patrol cars on the 4th of March, it was game over. All 4 were arrested with stolen goods in the boot and a digital trail they couldn't explain away. This is the story of the Snapchat burglars who called themselves the A-Team, and the police operation that brought their fantasy crashing down. Their backgrounds were unremarkable, their crimes anything but. Diaz Watson, 18, Kyle Snowball, 25, Connor Lee Walker, 25, and Billy Dennis Wright, 20, 4 men from West and South Yorkshire, each with minor brushes with the law, but early in 2024, something changed. Individually, they were petty criminals. Together, they became a unit, and under the banner of a Snapchat group called the A-Team, they set out to turn low-level burglary into a full-scale operation. The group chat wasn't just for bragging, it was a hub for planning. Messages flew back and forth about patrol timings, possible targets, and getaway vehicles. They spoke in codes, shared locations, and plotted moves with the kind of confidence seen in organized gangs. While Walker wasn't officially in the group, he was regularly referenced, his involvement clear in execution, if not in chat. They didn't strike randomly. These were targeted hits, often carried out in quiet residential neighborhoods, late at night, and within a tight time frame. One night might see a break-in in Barnsley, the next a job in Doncaster. With every successful raid, their ambition grew, and with that ambition came recklessness. The turning point came in mid-February. The group stole a white Kia Sportage and an Audi from a property in Doncaster. The vehicles were immediately pressed into service for further burglaries. They were the group's transport, battering ram, and escape route, all in one. But it wasn't just about the gear, it was about the image. Snapchat became the digital stage where they performed their criminal personas, posing with stolen watches, driving high-spec cars, and taunting police with lines like, "Any good to you, 71 plate." They didn't fear getting caught. They feared going unnoticed. But what they didn't realize was that every post, every chat, every plate swap was being quietly archived. The A-Team weren't invisible. They were being watched. The A-Team wasn't just a nickname, it was a brand. And behind that brand was a highly active criminal network moving fast across West and South Yorkshire. From early February to early March 2024, the gang launched burglary after burglary in a methodical, almost military fashion. The town's hit read like a mapped-out circuit. Doncaster, Huddersfield, Barnsley, Hemsworth, Pontefract, Goole, Woolley, Emley, Kirkburton. The pace was relentless, sometimes 2 burglaries in a single night. Their approach was always the same. Arrive quickly in a stolen car, force entry through doors or windows, and go straight for high-value targets. Rolexes, designer jewelry, car keys. The vehicles they stole were more than transport. They were assets. The white Kia Sportage, taken in a February raid, became a key part of their toolkit. Plates were swapped, appearances changed, and the car was used again and again in subsequent burglaries. Surveillance footage and forensic evidence later revealed the same vehicle cropping up at multiple scenes. Planning was done largely through Snapchat. Group chats weren't coded operations. They were open bragging forums peppered with half-serious planning. Messages referenced active police chases, vehicle sightings, how to avoid patrols, and tips on changing registration plates. There were even messages about selling stolen items, with jewelry and vehicles being offloaded via black market contacts. It wasn't subtle. It was social media as command center. Walker, though not in the Snapchat group, played a clear role in operations. He was referenced multiple times, and his involvement in the vehicle pursuit that ended the spree confirmed his place within the inner circle. Stolen property was quickly turned over. Cars stripped or replated, jewelry moved out of Yorkshire entirely. The group didn't have a vast laundering operation, but they moved fast enough to stay ahead, until they didn't. Each burglary followed a pattern. The gang would approach in silence, strike quickly, and be gone before neighbors stirred. But even precision leaves patterns. Wakefield District Crime Team began linking incidents through tire marks, vehicle sightings, and social media activity. The pattern wasn't just familiar, it was repeatable. And with every post, every poorly hidden number plate, and every careless message, the A-Team were building a case against themselves. The gang believed they were organized, but real organization watches from the shadows and waits for the right time to strike. There was no formal hierarchy in the A-Team, but roles were clear. Diaz Watson and Kyle Snowball were the core strategists. Young, brash, and relentlessly active on Snapchat, they served as the visible faces of the group's operation. Watson, just 18, acted far older than his age suggested, directing hits, flaunting stolen gear, and using the group chat as both a diary and a boast board. Snowball, at 25, brought experience and swagger, his messages littered with references to evading police and tracking patrol movements. Their grip on the operation wasn't about fear, it was about speed and visibility. They moved quickly, took risks, and amplified their status through videos of fast drives, revving engines, and glittering stolen watches. It wasn't just burglary, it was brand building, crime as content, broadcast in real time to their inner circle. Connor Lee Walker, though quieter, held weight. He wasn't in the Snapchat group, but he was very much part of the machinery. His name surfaced often in messages, suggesting logistical involvement, site selection, and coordination. When the group was finally caught, he was in the Kia with the others. He wasn't a bystander, he was trusted. Billy Dennis Wright, the youngest besides Watson, played a supporting role. His exact function was less visible, but his presence during the final chase and arrest confirmed his place on the front line. 4 men, 1 mission: target, steal, vanish. Their control extended to how they handled risk. Plates were swapped regularly, roads were chosen for quick exits. Burglary windows were short, often no longer than 10 minutes. They scouted police activity in real time, using public intelligence and lookouts. When a location was hit, they moved on swiftly, sometimes to another burglary within hours. But perhaps their most telling flex was their digital trail. They didn't fear exposure, they courted it. Messages about police sightings, near misses, and mocking captions turned crime into a performance. They filmed what they should have buried. They bragged when they should have hidden. They believed control meant staying ahead. But the very systems they used to organize, the group chats, the car swaps, the recycled tactics, became their undoing. What they thought was clever was, in truth, predictable. What they thought was power was really ego, and it left traces everywhere. The A-Team thought they were running Yorkshire. But control doesn't come from speed, it comes from staying unseen, and they'd made themselves very visible indeed. The downfall didn't begin with a grand mistake, it began with repetition. Each burglary carried a fingerprint of familiarity. Same car, same entry points, same targets. What the gang saw as consistency, investigators saw as a pattern. And patterns can be tracked. Wakefield District Crime Team began linking a string of burglaries across multiple jurisdictions. CCTV footage showed the same white Kia Sportage appearing repeatedly at crime scenes. In one clip, Its plate was partially obscured, clearly tampered with. In another, it was seen idling just out of view during a Huddersfield burglary. The vehicle wasn't just a transport tool, it was a smoking gun. Digital evidence poured in. Snapchat group logs were preserved by law enforcement. Messages detailed vehicle swaps, police sightings, and selling stolen goods. The tone was cavalier, boasting about how clean they were, bragging about fresh plates and safe routes. But bravado doesn't beat metadata. IP addresses, chat logs, and location pings slowly boxed them in. In a key message, a gang member casually mentioned a stolen 71-plate car. "Any good to you?" It was the kind of throwaway line meant to impress mates, but it landed in court like an admission. The turning point came on the 4th of March 2024. A burglary in Woolley triggered an immediate police response. The same white Kia was spotted fleeing the scene. A pursuit was authorised. Officers tailed the vehicle as it sped through rural West Yorkshire. When the car was finally stopped, all 4 suspects were inside: Watson, Snowball, Walker, and Wright. Jewellery, later confirmed as stolen from a recent Huddersfield burglary, was found in the boot. Their phones were seized on arrest. Inside, a digital scrapbook of their crimes, pictures of stolen items, videos of fast drives, screenshots of police activity. One message even joked, "If they grip us, it's wraps." They were right. The A-team had built their empire on ego and excess. But they had also built a digital archive of everything they'd done wrong. And in the end, it was all handed straight to the police. The final hours of the A-team's spree played out like a scene from a crime drama. On the 4th of March 2024, police were alerted to a burglary in progress in the village of Woolley, Wakefield. A white Kia Sportage, previously linked to multiple offences, was spotted fleeing the scene. Officers were already closing in. A pursuit was authorised. This wasn't a random stop. It was the culmination of weeks of surveillance, digital forensics, and coordination between police divisions across West Yorkshire. The chase was rapid and tightly controlled. The stolen Kia, carrying all 4 gang members, tore through back roads and commuter lanes, attempting to outrun marked and unmarked vehicles. But this time, the roads were no longer theirs. Strategic deployment by police boxed the vehicle in. Units from multiple forces cornered the car, forcing it to halt. Watson, Snowball, Walker, and Wright were all inside, caught together, mid-move, surrounded before they could vanish into the dark. The car was searched on the spot. Inside the boot was a trove of stolen property, jewellery later traced to a Huddersfield burglary just days before. But the most damning evidence wasn't hidden under floor mats or in glove compartments. It was digital. Each of their mobile phones was seized and analysed. Snapchat messages showed planning discussions, conversations about changing plates, and direct references to police patrols. Videos found on the devices showed the men revving stolen cars, flaunting Rolex watches, and mocking the authorities. One clip even featured a stolen vehicle captioned, "Fresh plates. Let's go." The brashness that had defined their spree became the bedrock of the case against them. Once in custody, the 4 were interviewed and charged with conspiracy to commit burglary. As more forensic and digital evidence was logged, the scale of their activities became clear. 21 confirmed burglaries across Yorkshire in just over 4 weeks. Over £150,000 in goods stolen. Homes broken into, communities left shaken. But now the faces behind the crimes had names. They weren't shadows in CCTV anymore. They were on record, in custody, and on a charging sheet, backed by mountains of evidence. The A-team weren't taken down by force. They were taken down by patience, planning, and a net that had been drawing tighter with every crime they committed. On the first day of their trial at Leeds Crown Court, the A-team folded, faced with a mountain of digital evidence, CCTV, stolen goods, and mobile phone data. All 4 men pleaded guilty to conspiracy to commit burglary. The courtroom was told of a 30-day crime wave spanning towns and villages across Yorkshire, 21 burglaries in total, with over £150,000 worth of property stolen. The charges laid bare the gang's systematic targeting of homes, theft of vehicles, and open bragging on social media. It wasn't just the number of offences, it was the confidence with which they'd been carried out. Diaz Watson, just 18 years old, was sentenced to 6 years and 8 months. His youth was noted, but his role as a key planner, organiser, and relentless online bragger outweighed any leniency. Kyle Snowball, 25, received the heaviest sentence, 7 years and 7 months. Described as a driving force behind the burglaries, he showed no regard for victims and was central in plotting movements and managing stolen goods. Connor Lee Walker, also 25, was handed 8 years and 9 months. Despite not being a member of the Snapchat group, the court recognised his deep involvement, referenced in chats, active during burglaries, and present at the final takedown. Billy Dennis Wright, 20, received 4 years and 11 months. Though viewed as a less dominant figure, his repeated participation in key burglaries confirmed his guilt. Detective Sergeant Lewis Hibbert of Wakefield District Crime Team addressed the media following sentencing. These men didn't just steal property, they invaded people's homes, left families traumatized, and did so with disturbing arrogance. Their crimes were planned, coordinated, and fueled by greed and ego. The community impact was severe, but so is today's justice. He added that the case exemplifies how modern policing blends traditional legwork with digital forensics. Snapchat, once their bragging platform, had become a record of admissions and movements. The sentencing marked the end of a spree that had shaken communities and emboldened others online. But the result was clear. No matter how confident you are, how clever you think your tech is, or how far you think you can run, if you broadcast your crimes, someone's watching. The A-Team walked into court as digital-age gangsters. They walked out as convicted burglars with years behind bars ahead of them. And Yorkshire, for now, was a little quieter.